Yeah, I completely agree. Do you want to explain a bit more about what BIM is, just in case people are listening that they don't know what it is?
Sure. Building information modeling is basically a concept or a principle where the disciplines would be sharing one model, and that would basically be on a conceptual stage, and all the drawings and all the deliverables from the design point of view would be really actively being drafted out of one model. So then it is very easy to edit and make changes, as they obviously always occur, because any changes would be sort of live done within the model, and all your drawings, all your worksheets, material specifications, plan specifications would be automatically updated. So it is a great way to actually, again, communicate effectively with your client, with your co-workers, with any other, I would say, stakeholders who might not necessarily understand exactly what you need to produce, but they obviously have their own requirements. So to come with data is easy. It's really up to you as a user what niche and what principle or what aspect of that data you will present and how you will present those data. So then we can see very clearly that, for example, the communication between architects and landscape architects, engineers, structural engineers, any professionals who would need to deal with drainage, water, ecologists. Obviously, everybody would be using slightly different software, but the level of integration can be streamlined quite a lot and basically bring quite a significant savings and consistency in work by really building information modeling as a core concept of your practice. Now, the question probably is, do I really need it? Is it really good for my own practice? Well, obviously that depends on your workflows, that depends really on your own, I would say almost our company's ethos and who you are, what do you want, what do you want to achieve, which projects you are attracted to, what type of work you really want to do. But in terms of the savings of time, in terms of the communication, in terms of, I would say, streamlining that process, driving the design decisions right at the initial stage, design stage, we are finding more and more firms towards sort of BIM principles and work with the BIM principles.
From a designer's perspective, it is more work, but one, that means more money, so great. But on the other hand, it means more cost for the developers. However, again, as we've sort of talked about, the benefits for the developers is like that longer term sort of cost saving. And there's a couple of other things to BIM, as I understand it. Again, my understanding is limited because I'm not an architect that tend to sort of do this much more than landscape do. But was that also, so one is you get sort of your BIM model, which would then sort of be sold, or the long-term idea is it's sort of sold with the building. So if you were to buy a building, you would basically have like this BIM model of the building, so you know where everything is. Whereas quite often we go to site and you do a survey and you think, yeah, we'll dig here, and you dig there and you find a pipe and you have no idea what that pipe is for. And no one that's lived there for 50 years has any idea that the pipe was ever put in. So there's always kind of like those problems that sort of arise, and it's to kind of help stop that in the future and add value. And if changes need to be made, you've got all the data there from what's been done.
That's
recently.
Correct, yeah.
But then also, the other major thing which we sort of alluded to is a big part is clash detection as well. So for instance, if you've got the landscape architect and the architect working on their own bits that then come together, it can be fairly easy to miss if things don't necessarily line up. For argument's sake, I'll just give a ridiculous example, but if, for instance, the landscape architect's designed sort of all of the exterior and the architect's done the building, and then you put the two together and the levels don't line up, like that'll be really obvious in a BIM model, much more obvious than anywhere else. But also it helps with things like M&E and stuff like that as well, where you've got mechanical, electrical components and pipes and all of those kind of things going in. You can keep better track of where they all are, like I already mentioned. And then it can kind of also lead you to sort of better decision making. So for instance, if you've got lots of pipes and cables and everything going in one area, you start thinking, well, actually, at what point does it become better to have like ducting or whatever else? Whereas previously you would have had all those disciplines doing their own thing, and you'd have to interpret all those different drawings and plans to understand, yes, there's actually loads of these pipes going in there. Whereas in this way you could see it almost immediately, and you can make sure there's not conflicts and clashes where they're sort of running or whatever else as well. So it makes that sort of, as you mentioned earlier, the visibility of the process much, much clearer.
It supports creativity in the long run as well, because as soon as you enter basically a wider range of disciplines, you very often can be compromised on your design simply because of the other discipline. It's not as easy to incorporate those two together because you've got that one model, and because everything eventually would run around the building from the baselines. You are more likely, as you said, you're more likely basically to really find out any potential issues in the design stage. And again, BIM, as soon as you do, let's say that there are problems, you can obviously work with them at the design level, which is definitely less costly than on-site. But also, as soon as you make changes, obviously that change is automatically being updated on all your drawings. So then all that manual clicking and handling all those data sheets which you obviously would have as part of your design, you don't need to really go one by one and update them. You are updating them all at once, which is really, I think that is probably one of the biggest benefits of BIM. So again, it is the communication tool as we were mentioning before.